Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something important. You cannot fix your entire life in one day, but you can change the direction of your entire life in one day. And direction is everything. Your life does not change when the calendar changes. It changes when you change. It doesn't improve because circumstances improve. It improves because you improve. So when we talk about fixing your entire life in one day, we are really talking about something powerful, making one decision that alters your course forever. You see, success is not magical. It is not mystical. It is not reserved for the lucky. Success is simply a few disciplines practiced every day, and failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The danger is not in one massive mistake. The danger is in neglect, small neglect, repeated daily. So how do you fix your life in one day? You start with honesty. Spend one full day getting honest with yourself, not with your neighbor, not with your spouse, not with your boss, with yourself. Ask yourself, where am I? How did I get here? What have I done well? What have I neglected? The truth may sting a little, but remember this. The truth is also the beginning of freedom. You cannot change what you refuse to confront. The next step is responsibility. Here is one of the most powerful words in the English language, responsibility. If you want to fix your life, you must accept that where you are today is largely the result of the choices you have made. That's not bad news. That's good news. Because if your choices created your current life, then new choices can create a new one. Blame is a dead-end street. Responsibility is a highway to growth. In one day, you can decide, from this day forward, I take ownership. I take ownership of my health. I take ownership of my finances. I take ownership of my relationships. I take ownership of my attitude. And when you take ownership, you take back control. Now let's talk about standards. Your life will rise or fall to the level of your standards, not your wishes, not your hopes, your standards. What are you willing to tolerate? What are you willing to accept from yourself? If you have been tolerating mediocrity, procrastination, negative thinking, poor habits, then your life reflects those standards. In one day, you can raise your standards. You can say, no more. No more average effort. No more broken promises to myself. No more excuses. The moment you raise your standards, your behavior must rise to meet them. And that shift can happen in a single day, in a single moment of decision. Next comes clarity. Most people are not failing because they lack ability. They are failing because they lack clarity. They don't know what they want. They drift through life like a ship without a destination. And if you don't set your own destination, someone else will. Take one day and design your future. Write it down. What kind of person do you want to become? What kind of income do you want to earn? What kind of family life do you want to build? What kind of health do you want to enjoy? When the future becomes clear, the present becomes powerful. Now here's something critical. Change your philosophy. Your philosophy is how you see the world. It is the set of beliefs that guide your decisions. If your philosophy is weak, your results will be weak. If your philosophy is strong, your results will improve. In one day, you can decide to adopt a new philosophy. A philosophy of discipline instead of convenience. A philosophy of growth instead of comfort. A philosophy of long-term reward instead of short-term pleasure. Life responds to philosophy. Then, change your habits. You don't need to change everything at once. Just start with 1 or 2 key habits. Wake up 1 hour earlier. Read 10 pages a day. Exercise for 30 minutes. Make that sales call. Save a portion of your income. Small disciplines repeated daily create massive results over time. The day you install a new habit is the day your future begins to change. And let's not forget association. You cannot live a positive life with negative associations. The people you spend time with influence your thinking, your standards, your conversations, and your ambitions. In one day, you can decide to limit destructive influences and seek out inspiring ones. Attend seminars. Listen to audios. Read books. Surround yourself with people who challenge you to grow. Sometimes fixing your life means changing your circle. Now let's talk about action. Ideas are powerful, but only when acted upon. Inspiration is wonderful, but it fades. Motivation is temporary, but discipline lasts. The key to fixing your life in one day is not emotion. It is commitment. Make a decision that is so strong that your behavior has no choice but to follow it. There comes a moment in every person's life when they say, I've had enough. Enough debt. Enough frustration. Enough self-doubt. Enough average living. That emotional tipping point, if followed by disciplined action, can change everything. One day can become day one. And finally, believe in the miracle of compound effect. You won't wake up tomorrow with a completely different life. But if you truly change your thinking, your standards, your habits, and your direction, then everything begins to compound. In weeks, you'll notice progress. In months, you'll see transformation. In years, others will call you lucky. But you'll know the truth. It all began with one day, one honest evaluation, one bold decision, one raised standard, one written goal, one new habit. So can you fix your entire life in one day? Yes, if by fixing, you mean changing the direction. Because the direction you choose today determines the destination you arrive at tomorrow. Your life changes the moment you decide it will. And that decision can be made before this day ends. If you truly want to change your life, the first place you must look is not outside. It is inside. Not at the economy. Not at your boss. Not at your family. Not at your circumstances. You must look in the mirror. Because the most powerful conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Now here's the challenge. Most people avoid that conversation. It's easier to stay busy than to be honest. It's easier to blame than to evaluate. It's easier to defend your current life than to admit you could do better. But progress begins with truth. Not half truth. Not convenient truth. The whole truth. You cannot fix what you will not confront. If your finances are a mess, say it. If your health is declining, admit it. If your discipline is weak, own it. If you've been procrastinating for years, call it what it is. Don't dress it up. Don't rename it. Don't soften it. Call it by its real name. Because the truth, though uncomfortable, is incredibly powerful. You see, denial keeps things the same. Honesty begins change. The day you sit down and honestly evaluate your life is the day you separate yourself from the majority. Most people drift through life reacting to circumstances. Very few pause long enough to measure their progress. Ask yourself real questions. Where am I financially? Not where do I hope to be? Where am I really? Where am I physically? How is my energy, my strength, my habits? Where am I mentally? What do I read? What do I listen to? What dominates my thoughts? Where am I emotionally? Am I grateful or bitter? Optimistic or cynical? Where am I spiritually? Do I live with purpose or am I simply existing? Now those questions might sting a little. That's okay. Growth often begins with discomfort. The discomfort is not there to punish you. It is there to wake you up. Here is something powerful. The problem is not that you are behind. The problem is pretending you are not. Once you see clearly, you can act clearly. Think of it this way. If you were driving to a destination and realized you were 50 miles off course, would you panic? No. You would simply adjust. But you cannot adjust a direction you refuse to measure. That's what honesty does. It measures. And here's the good news. Wherever you are today is not permanent. It is simply a snapshot of your past decisions. That's all. Your bank account is a snapshot of your financial habits. Your body is a snapshot of your health habits. Your results are a snapshot of your disciplines. Snapshots can change. But first, you must stop editing the picture. Some people spend years creating stories to protect their ego. I could have done more, but I would have succeeded, except it's not my fault because those stories may protect your pride, but they destroy your potential. Your future does not need your excuses. It needs your honesty. Now understand this clearly. Honesty is not self-condemnation. This is not about beating yourself up. It's not about guilt or shame. It's about clarity. There's a big difference between saying, I am a failure, and saying, I have failed to do what I should. One attacks identity. The other identifies behavior. Behavior can change. Be gentle with your identity, but ruthless with your excuses. You might discover that you have been lazy in certain areas. Fine. Now you know. You might realize you have wasted time. Good, now you can redeem it. You might admit you've been afraid to take risks. Excellent. Now you can build courage. Honesty gives you a starting point. Imagine trying to build a house on unstable ground. If the foundation is cracked, ignoring it will not strengthen it. You must inspect it. And inspection requires honesty. One powerful exercise is to write everything down. Take one day and conduct a personal audit. Write down your debts. Write down your goals. Write down your habits. Write down your daily routine. Write down your strengths and weaknesses. When it's on paper, it becomes real. And when it becomes real, it becomes manageable. Clarity reduces fear. Often, the reason people avoid honesty is because they are afraid of what they will find. But what you find is not nearly as dangerous as what you ignore. Ignored problems grow. Confronted problems shrink. And here is something remarkable. The moment you tell yourself the truth, you feel lighter. There is a strange relief in saying, yes, this is where I am. Because now you are no longer pretending. You are no longer carrying the weight of illusion. From that moment forward, progress becomes possible. You see, you cannot have a better future built on self-deception. A strong future requires a strong foundation. And the strongest foundation is truth. The day you become radically honest is the day your direction changes. Maybe your results won't change immediately. Your bank account may look the same tomorrow. Your body may not transform overnight. But something more important changes, your awareness. And awareness is the beginning of transformation. Once you see clearly, you begin making different choices. You wake up earlier because you now see the cost of sleeping in. You spend less because you now see the impact of careless spending. You read more because you now recognize the gaps in your knowledge. Honesty sharpens your vision. And when your vision sharpens, your decisions improve. When your decisions improve, your actions improve. When your actions improve, your results improve. It all begins with that one courageous step, telling yourself the truth. So if you want to fix your entire life in one day, spend that day in honest reflection. No distractions, no noise. Just you and the truth Evaluate, measure, admit, accept, not with fear, but with determination, because the truth is not your enemy. It is your ally. It shows you exactly where to aim your effort. It shows you exactly what to correct. It shows you exactly what must change. And once you know what must change, your future is no longer a mystery. It becomes a decision. The mirror does not lie. And if you are brave enough to look into it with complete honesty, you will discover something powerful. You are not stuck. You are simply ready for a new direction. And that direction begins the moment you tell yourself the truth. If you truly want to transform your life, there is one word you must fully understand, accept, and live by: responsibility. Now, most people misunderstand responsibility. They hear the word and think of burden. They think of pressure. They think of blame. But responsibility is not a burden. It is a gift. It is the doorway to power. The day you accept full responsibility for your life is the day you take back control. Let me explain something clearly. You cannot change what you blame on others. If it's the economy's fault, then you must wait for the economy to improve. If it's your boss's fault, you must wait for your boss to change. If it's your family's fault, you must wait for them to act differently. Blame puts your future in someone else's hands. Responsibility puts it back in yours. Now, this does not mean that everything that has happened to you is your fault. Life happens. The economy shifts. People disappoint you. Unexpected challenges arise. But while you may not control what happens to you, you absolutely control what you do about it. That is where the power lies. There are two ways to live. You can live as a victim of circumstance, or you can live as the architect of your destiny. Victims ask, why is this happening to me? Architects ask, what can I do next? One question creates weakness. The other creates strength. If your finances are struggling, you can blame taxes, inflation, your salary, or your background. Or you can say, what skills can I develop? What expenses can I reduce? What opportunities am I missing? The moment you shift from blame to responsibility, your mind starts looking for solutions. And solutions are always more valuable than excuses. Here is something powerful to remember. You are not responsible for where you start, but you are responsible for where you finish. Maybe you didn't grow up with advantages. Maybe you weren't given the best education. Maybe you made mistakes in your 20s. That's the past. Responsibility is about what you choose now. Your past is a place of reference, not a place of residence. When you accept responsibility, something incredible happens. Your language changes. You stop saying, I can't because, and start saying, I will despite. You stop saying, they won't let me, and start saying, I will find a way. That shift in language reflects a shift in identity. Responsible people do not wait for motivation. They act because they have decided. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They create progress in imperfect ones. They understand that small daily actions compound over time. Now let's be honest. Taking responsibility is uncomfortable at first. It requires humility. It requires you to admit, I could have done better. But that admission is not weakness. It is maturity. Immature people defend their mistakes. Mature people correct them. Imagine two individuals facing the same setback. One says, this ruined everything. The other says, this taught me something. One remains stuck. The other grows. The difference is not circumstance. It is responsibility. You see, responsibility is closely tied to freedom. The more responsibility you accept, the more freedom you gain. Financial freedom requires financial responsibility. Physical freedom requires health responsibility. Emotional freedom requires responsibility for your reactions. You cannot separate freedom from responsibility. They travel together. Here's a simple truth. Your income rarely exceeds your level of personal responsibility. If you want to earn more, you must become more responsible, more disciplined, more reliable, more skilled, more valuable. The marketplace rewards responsibility, and so does life. Responsibility also means owning your attitude. You may not control every event, but you control your response. You control whether you become bitter or better. You control whether you complain or contribute. You control whether you give up or grow stronger. Your attitude is your responsibility. Some people say, that's just the way I am. No, that's the way you've been chosen to be. And choices can change. Temper can change. Laziness can change. Fear can change. But only when you stop excusing it and start owning it. Responsibility says, if it's to be, it's up to me. Now, don't misunderstand this. Responsibility does not mean isolation. It does not mean you never ask for help. In fact, responsible people seek guidance. They look for mentors. They read books. They attend seminars. But even when they seek help, they never surrender ownership. They understand that advice is valuable, but action is personal. No one can exercise for you. No one can read for you. No one can discipline you for you. Responsibility cannot be delegated. And here is where transformation truly begins. The moment you say, from this day forward, I am responsible for my results. You stop being passive. You stop drifting. You stop waiting. You begin designing. That decision can happen in a single day. You might look at your current life and feel regret. That's fine. Regret can be a teacher. But do not let it become a prison. Instead, let it become fuel. Say, I accept that my past choices created my present reality. and today I choose differently. That statement is powerful because your future is not controlled by your past. It is controlled by your present decisions. And decisions are made in moments of responsibility. When you fully embrace responsibility, you gain confidence. Why? Because you no longer feel helpless. Even in difficult situations, you know you have options. You may not control everything, but you always control your effort, your learning, your persistence. And that is enough to build a new life. So if you want to fix your entire life in one day, begin here. Stop pointing outward. Start looking inward. Stop asking who is at fault. Start asking what you can improve. Stop waiting for rescue. Start leading yourself. Responsibility is not heavy when you understand it correctly. It is empowering. It tells you that your future is not an accident. It is a construction project, and you are the builder. The tools are in your hands. The blueprint is your vision. The daily work is your discipline, and the results will follow. The moment you accept full responsibility is the moment you reclaim your power. And when you reclaim your power, your life begins to move. Not by chance, but by choice. And that choice can be made today. Let me share something that changes everything when you truly understand that your life does not rise to the level of your goals. It rises to the level of your standards. Goals are what you hope for. Standards are what you demand from yourself. You can set all the goals you want: higher income, better health, stronger relationships. But if your standards remain low, your life will quietly return to what you are willing to tolerate. That is why raising your standards is one of the most powerful decisions you can make in a single day. Take a moment and examine your life honestly. Whatever you currently have is a reflection of what you have been willing to accept. If you are accepting poor performance from yourself, that becomes your normal. If you are accepting procrastination, that becomes your pattern. If you are accepting average effort, that becomes your identity. Life always matches your standards. Now here's the challenging part. Standards are invisible agreements you make with yourself. They are not announced publicly. They are not written on your forehead, but they quietly govern your behavior. If your standard says, "This is good enough," you will stop at good enough. If your standard says, "I finish what I start," you will push through difficulty. You don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. Many people live in quiet dissatisfaction because they have allowed things to slide for years. They tolerate being late. They tolerate being out of shape. They tolerate debt. They tolerate broken promises to themselves. And over time, toleration turns into lifestyle. But something powerful happens when a person finally says, "No more." That moment, that emotional decision, can change the entire direction of a life. Raising your standards begins with a refusal. A refusal to live below your potential. A refusal to accept excuses from yourself. A refusal to continue habits that weaken you. It is not about perfection. It is about commitment. For example, if your current standard for health is, "I'll exercise when I feel like it," you will rarely feel like it. But if your new standard is, "I train my body at least 5 days a week," no excuses, your behavior must rise to match that standard. The body doesn't change first. The standard changes first. The same is true financially. If your standard is, "I spend what I earn," you will always feel pressure. But if your new standard becomes, "I always save and invest a portion of my income," your habits will begin to adjust. You'll think differently before making purchases. You'll act differently with opportunities. Standards shape behavior. Behavior shapes results. Here's something important to understand. Raising your standards will feel uncomfortable at first. Why? Because growth and comfort rarely travel together. When you raise your expectations of yourself, you create tension. But that tension is productive. It stretches you. It forces you to develop new disciplines. Most people lower their standards to match their comfort. Successful people raise their standards and grow into them. Think about your relationships. If your standard is, "I'll give effort when it's convenient," your relationships will be fragile. But if your standard is, "I communicate clearly, I show appreciation, I keep my word," you create strength. You become dependable. And dependable people build meaningful lives. Your standards determine your identity. If you see yourself as someone who tries, your results will reflect that. If you see yourself as someone who does, your results will change. The shift from trying to doing is a shift in standard. Now, here is the exciting part. You can raise your standards in a single decision. You don't need permission. You don't need a degree. You don't need approval. You simply decide, from this day forward, I operate at a higher level. That decision might not change your bank account overnight. It might not transform your body in a week, but it changes your direction immediately. And direction is far more important than speed. A person walking slowly in the right direction will always outrun someone running in circles. When you raise your standards, you also change what you allow into your life. You become more selective with your time. You guard your energy. You become careful about the influences around you. You stop accepting negativity as normal. You stop allowing distraction to dominate your days. Higher standards create clearer boundaries. You might lose some comfort. You might even lose some people who preferred the old version of you. But remember this, every new level requires a new version of you. If you try to grow while holding on to old standards, you will feel constant conflict. Growth requires letting go. And don't confuse high standards with arrogance. High standards are not about thinking you are better than others. They are about demanding more from yourself. It is a private commitment to excellence. It is waking up when you said you would. It is finishing the task you started. It is showing up prepared. It is doing the extra rep, the extra call, the extra page. Excellence is not an act. It is a standard. Now ask yourself, where have you been settling? Where have you said, this is fine, when you knew you were capable of more? That quiet compromise, repeated daily, is what keeps people average. But the good news is this standards can be raised instantly. You can decide today that you no longer tolerate mediocrity from yourself. You can decide that discipline is no longer optional. You can decide that growth is your responsibility. You can decide that your word means something. When you make that decision, something shifts inside you. You begin to feel stronger, more focused, more intentional, because you are no longer drifting. You are leading yourself. And once your standards rise, your habits must follow. Once your habits change, your results begin to change. And once your results improve, your confidence grows. It becomes a cycle, but it begins with the decision. If you want to fix your entire life in one day, raise your standards in that day. Decide what kind of person you are committed to becoming. Define what you will and will not accept from yourself. Make excellence your new normal. Because at the end of the day, success is not about dramatic leaps. It is about daily alignment with higher standards. Your life will expand or contract according to what you demand of yourself. So demand more, expect more, require more, and then grow into it. That single decision to raise your standards can change everything. One of the greatest tragedies in life is not failure. It is drift. It is waking up 10 years later and wondering how you arrived at a destination you never intentionally chose. And drift happens when there is no clear vision guiding your steps. If you want to change your life, you must gain clarity about where you are going. Clarity is powerful. It sharpens your focus. It organizes your energy. It filters your decisions. Without clarity, effort is scattered. With clarity, effort becomes concentrated. And concentrated effort produces results. Most people work hard, but they are not clear. They are busy, but they are not directed. They wake up, react to the day, handle what comes, and repeat. Weeks become months. Months become years. And because there was no clear destination, there is no meaningful progress. You cannot hit a target you cannot see. Imagine setting out on a journey without deciding where you want to go. Any road will do. Any turn seems acceptable. But when you finally realize you are far from where you hope to be, frustration sets in. Not because you lacked effort, but because you lack direction. Clarity changes that. When you know exactly what you want, your decisions begin to align. If you are clear that you want financial independence, your spending habits change. If you are clear that you want excellent health, your daily routines change. If you are clear that you want a strong family, your time allocation changes. Clarity creates discipline. Now understand, this clarity is not vague desire. Saying, I want to be successful is not clarity. Saying, I want to be happy is not clarity. Those are wishes. Clarity is specific. It defines numbers, timelines, behaviors, and identity. How much income do you want to earn? What kind of physical condition do you want to maintain? What skills do you want to master? What kind of character do you want to be known for? When you answer those questions in detail, your mind begins to work differently. It starts searching for ways to close the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Your brain is a powerful goal-seeking instrument, but only when you give it a target. Clarity also protects you from distraction. There will always be opportunities, invitations, temptations, and diversions. But when your future is clearly defined, you can evaluate each option with one simple question. Does this move me toward my vision or away from it? That question alone can save years of wasted effort. Another important part of clarity is defining the person you want to become, because success is not something you pursue. It is something you attract by becoming the right person. If you want a better life, you must design a better version of yourself. What does that version look like? More disciplined, more educated, more confident, more patient. When you become clear about your future identity, your present behavior begins to adjust. Clarity turns dreams into plans. But here's where many people hesitate. They are afraid to define what they truly want. They lower their vision to protect themselves from disappointment. They say, I don't want to aim too high. But the problem with aiming too low is that you will hit it. It is better to aim high and grow into the challenge than to aim low and stay small. Clarity requires courage. It requires you to admit what you truly desire. It requires you to say, this is the life I want to build. And once you say it, you are responsible to pursue it. Now here is something practical. Write it down. Thoughts are powerful, but written goals are transformative. When you write down your vision, it becomes concrete. It becomes visible. It becomes something you can review, refine, and act upon. A written goal is a contract with your future. Take one day and design your life on paper, not someone else's life, not what society expects, your life. Decide how much you want to earn in the next 5 years. Decide where you want to live. Decide how you want to spend your time. Decide what impact you want to make. Design it deliberately. Clarity also builds confidence. When you know where you are going, uncertainty becomes less intimidating. Challenges become part of the journey instead of reasons to quit. You expect obstacles because you know the destination is worth it. A clear vision makes temporary discomfort easier to endure. Without clarity, small problems feel overwhelming. With clarity, they feel manageable because you understand that every step, even difficult ones, contributes to something meaningful. And here's another truth: clarity evolves. The vision you create today may expand as you grow. That's fine. Growth refines clarity. But you must start somewhere. You must begin with a defined direction. Even a simple written plan is more powerful than vague hope. Clarity also strengthens commitment. When you deeply understand why you want something, your why fuels your persistence. If you want financial success only for status, your motivation will fade. But if you want it to provide security for your family and freedom for your future, your drive becomes stronger. Clarity connects your goals to your values. And when goals align with values, discipline feels meaningful instead of forced. If you want to fix your entire life in one day, dedicate that day to gaining clarity. Turn off distractions. Reflect deeply. Ask yourself hard questions. Dream honestly. Plan specifically. Write deliberately. You may not achieve everything immediately, but the moment your direction becomes clear, your path begins to straighten. Remember, it is not speed that matters most. It is direction. A small step in the right direction is worth more than 1,000 steps in confusion. Clarity is like turning on a light in a dark room. The room does not change instantly, but now you can see where to walk. You avoid obstacles. You move with confidence. You stop stumbling. And once you see clearly, you cannot unsee. Your future is not an accident waiting to happen. It is a design waiting to be drawn. When you gain clarity, you become the architect. You stop drifting. You start directing. And that shift from drift to direction can happen in a single day. All it takes is the decision to define where you are going and who you are becoming. And once that vision is clear, your life begins to organize itself around it. If you truly want to transform your life, you must understand this simple but powerful truth: your life is the sum total of your daily habits. Not your intentions, not your wishes, not your promises, your habits. What you do every day quietly shapes who you become. The small disciplines you practice or neglect are writing your future in invisible ink. And over time, that invisible ink becomes permanent. Now here's the exciting part: you don't have to change everything to change your life. You only have to change a few daily habits. Success is not a dramatic leap. It is a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Failure is not a single catastrophic event. It is a few small errors in judgment repeated daily. That's why habits matter so much. They seem small in the moment, but they are powerful in accumulation. Think about this. If you read just 10 pages a day, that's about 650 pages a year. That's dozens of books. That amount of knowledge can reshape your thinking, your language, your decisions. But reading 10 pages feels insignificant in one day. The power is not in the day. The power is in the repetition. The same is true for health. 30 minutes of exercise today may not dramatically change your body, but 30 minutes a day for a year, that transforms energy, confidence, strength, and longevity. The discipline compounds. Habits are the bridge between goals and results. Many people set goals. Few people install habits. That is why goals often remain wishes. A goal without a habit is like a destination without a road. You know where you want to go, but you have no system to get there. Habits create the system. If you want financial growth, build the habit of saving a percentage of every dollar you earn. If you want stronger relationships, build the habit of intentional communication. If you want personal growth, build the habit of daily learning. If you want confidence, build the habit of keeping small promises to yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your self-trust. And self-trust is powerful. When you say, I will wake up at 6 a.m., and you do it, something shifts inside you. When you say, I will exercise today, and you follow through, you build integrity with yourself. That internal integrity spills into every other area of life. Now here's the challenge. Habits are formed in discomfort. The first day you wake up earlier, it feels hard. The first week you exercise consistently, it feels exhausting. The first month you reduce unnecessary spending, it feels restrictive. But remember this: what is difficult at first becomes easier with repetition. And what is easy at first often becomes difficult later if neglected. The pain of discipline weighs ounces. The pain of regret weighs tons. You must choose which weight you are willing to carry. Here is something else to understand: habits shape identity. If you consistently read, you begin to see yourself as a learner. If you consistently train your body, you see yourself as disciplined. If you consistently show up prepared, you see yourself as professional. You do not rise to the level of your motivation. You fall to the level of your systems. That is why habits are more powerful than emotion. Motivation fluctuates. Habits remain. There will be days you don't feel inspired. There will be days you feel tired. There will be days when progress seems slow. Habits carry you through those days. And here is the good news. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one day. Start small. Pick one or two keystone habits. Habits that naturally influence other areas. For example, waking up earlier often leads to better planning. Better planning leads to more productive days. Productive days lead to progress. Progress builds confidence. All from one habit. Or consider the habit of daily reflection. Spending 10 minutes reviewing your day improves awareness. Awareness improves decision making. Better decisions improve results. Small habit, large impact. The secret is consistency. Many people start strong and stop early. They treat habits like experiments instead of commitments. But habits require patience. The results may not appear immediately, but the process is working behind the scenes. Think of planting a seed. You water it daily. For a while, nothing appears above the surface. But underground, roots are forming. Growth is happening where you cannot see it. If you stop watering because you see nothing, you interrupt the process. Habits are like that. Stay consistent long enough, and the visible results will come. Another important principle: replace, don't just remove. If you try to eliminate a bad habit without replacing it, you create a void. Instead of mindless scrolling, raid. Instead of complaining, write solutions. Instead of overspending, track expenses. Transformation is substitution. Now understand this clearly: the direction of your life can change the day you change your habits. Your circumstances may not shift immediately, but your trajectory does. And trajectory determines destination. A plane leaving Los Angeles headed to New York, if it adjusts its direction by just a few degrees, will land in a completely different city. A small shift in direction makes a massive difference over distance. Your daily habits are that slight adjustment. If you improve by just 1% each day, the compounding effect over years is extraordinary. But that improvement must be intentional. It must be disciplined. It must be repeated. You cannot expect a better life while maintaining the same habits. And here is something empowering: habits are choices. You may have practiced certain patterns for years, but they were formed through repetition, and they can be reshaped through repetition. You are not trapped by your past routines. You are only bound by your current ones. So if you want to fix your entire life in one day, choose that day to install new disciplines. Decide that from now on you read daily. You exercise consistently. You manage your money intentionally. You speak positively. You plan your day before it begins. Make those decisions firm. Then protect them. Guard them. Repeat them. Because in the end, your future is not created by what you do occasionally. It is created by what you do consistently. Small disciplines, repeated daily, compounded over time. That is the formula for transformation. And the beautiful part is this: you can begin today.